Hi everyone, welcome back. Just before we begin here, I want to remind you to please like this video and subscribe if you enjoy this content. I really do appreciate the support. I think we're starting to grow a nice little houseplant community here, and I would definitely look forward to engaging with you in the comments. So don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe if you haven't already, and I appreciate it. Today we are going to be talking about the Calathea family, more specifically the Calathea rosopicta, which is the Calathea Medallion here that I have. I hear people say Calathea, you know, whatever works, you know what I'm talking about. You're probably here because this is a new plant to you, or something is going wrong with your Calathea and you're not really sure what that could be. Calatheas are a pickier houseplant. They can be more finicky, so it definitely takes some trial and error. This is one of the first Calatheas that I've owned, and granted, it is a relatively recent purchase, so we will see if it lives through the next couple of seasons. So with that being said, let's talk about light. Whenever you're lighting your Calatheas, it's important to note that they can tolerate lower light conditions. However, that doesn't mean no light, and they tolerate it. It does not mean they're going to thrive there. Ideally, you want to place these plants in a medium to a medium bright indirect light situation. Definitely no bright direct light, as that will scorch the foliage and do some damage to your plant. So I would say near a east or west facing window, a little bit further away from a south facing window, or relatively close to a north facing window should do pretty well. This plant, as you can see, has quite a bit of foliage. It's a very foliage-rich plant, and whenever you have foliage-rich plants, you definitely want to make sure that you are investing some time in cleaning off the foliage to allow the maximum amount of light reaching the surface of the plant, thus more energy for the plant through photosynthesis. So a good idea for your Calathea would be hosing it down with some distilled or filtered hose water if you can, but because these guys are more sensitive to minerals in the water, I would recommend just getting a damp cloth or sponge and just wiping off the top and the underside of the foliage every once in a while to get any kind of dust or kind of, you know, buildup of any sort off of the leaf. Next, let's talk about watering your Calathea. Calatheas move their foliage quite a bit. From my experience, I have noticed whenever my medallion is thirsty, because the foliage really starts to droop quite a bit. They are dramatic in that sense that their foliage just moves a lot, and whenever this is underwatered, it definitely droops quite a bit, and you should be able to notice that in your own plant. You want to try your best to keep this plant relatively moist. You don't want to keep the soil wet, as that would cause anaerobic respiration in the soil, leading to root rot and oxygen deprivation. However, I would definitely recommend not letting this plant dry out too much, as you could end up with some brown crispy edges. In addition, your water should be ideally distilled or filtered. You can use just regular tap water depending on the municipality that you are in and the type of water that you have. Is it high in fluoride or salts or minerals or things like that? Calatheas are very sensitive to things in your water. So if you are noticing brown crispy leaves, it could be due to underwatering, or it could be due to minerals or salts or over-fertilization or a buildup of excess minerals. I would definitely, if you are experiencing this problem, go out and buy a gallon of distilled water, or even rainwater if you have a rainwater collector, and flush the soil. Just let water run through the soil for probably 30 seconds to a minute to really drain out any excess nutrients or mineral buildup that you may have in the pot. Then let your soil dry out until it is a little bit moist, and continue watering with distilled or filtered or rainwater. Another reason why you may have brown crispy leaves is due to a humidity problem. Calatheas do prefer a higher humidity situation, so ideally you would have your space around the 50 to 60% humidity, and that should do well for your Calatheas. If you do not have a space humidifier, you can use something like a pebble tray, where you fill up a tray with pebbles and fill that up with water, and that will cause quite a bit of surface area evaporation, thus increasing the amount of humidity around the plant. You can also group your plants together to increase your humidity. Definitely still allow some air circulation. You don't want to have a bunch of crowded foliage due to stagnant air, as well as pest or disease transmission from foliage to foliage whenever it's touching. So you can have them grouped together, just not too close. If you want to propagate your Calathea, you would do so through either spores, which I'm not very well versed on, so forgive me, you definitely want to look at a different resource for that, or you can do so through division. So if you look at the base of this plant here, you can actually see that there are many stems coming up from the soil. And if I wanted to create more plants, I would simply pull this guy out of the soil, and then, oh, look at that. Time for a repotting soon. And then I would just pull these plants apart and then create 1 and 2 plants. So if you are experiencing brown crispy leaves, you now know what to do and how to troubleshoot that. In addition, it's not uncommon to lose lower leaves of a plant. So if you are noticing yellowing leaves, it could be due to a sign of overwatering your plant and a rot problem. Or if you're noticing yellowing or crispy leaves at the lowest point of the stem, meaning the oldest growth, don't be alarmed. That's a natural process where older foliage dies back as it has used up all of its energy and is no longer beneficial to the plant, so the plant will put its energy into growing out some new growth at the top. And you can definitely see that at the bottom of this plant here. The older foliage here is starting to kind of look a little sad, look a little yellow and pathetic, so I'm going to cut that off here soon and allow this plant to preserve its energy. So yeah, everyone, I think we just about covered everything you need to know. All in all, really beautiful plant. I would definitely recommend getting a Calathea if you can get your hands on one. They are not very hard to find, and there are tons of different varieties, and you're all going to care for them very similarly. You know, just a little recap here, you definitely want to have a brighter and direct light scenario. Even some medium to low light would be okay for these plants. They're not going to thrive though. Make sure you're wiping off that foliage to allow the maximum amount of light in, and make sure you are using a filtered or distilled or rainwater. That is going to be your best bet to prevent any kind of mineral burn or anything like that. Keep your soil moist, not wet, to prevent root rot or any kind of brown, crispy leaves that you may get from underwatering. Humidity, you definitely want to keep around a 50 to 60% area, and definitely cluster your plants together if you can, not too close though, and that will keep your humidity up if you are struggling with humidity. All right, everyone, I will see you in the next video. Thanks so much for watching and checking out this video. Bye-bye.